guys, how you doing? My name is Kim, this is Vlad, and he's Elias, and we're Mad Science Garage. Over the course of the next couple of months, we have a budget drift car that we're going to build, something you can build yourself, something that's not going to break the bank. Vlad, tell them what we're going to do.
So I acquired a E36 chassis. It's a 4-door, it's a 97. I got it from my coworker at the time, where the deal was I fixed one of his E36s using parts from another E36, and whichever one is easier to fix, he keeps, and the other one I get to take home. That's exactly what I did. We stole a bunch of stuff off of that car, some anti-theft stuff, some engine parts, I think a cam sensor, and when I got his car running, I went and picked up the other one. Now it's at our house and we're about to get started on it.
So that's how we got the E36. So we got it pretty much for free. The only cost was Vlad's labor, which is pretty good if you ask us, because we don't have to do anything.
Surprisingly,
he did. So right now we're going to turn it into the most DIY budget drift car you can build. So with a free car, I think that's pretty budget. We're going to go full eBay coilovers. We're going to do a manual swap. We're going to take it down to OBD1, and we're going to just put everything eBay as possible on it. We're going to put some E36 control arms, eBay hydro e-brake. We're going to do everything to this car, and we're going to thrash it as hard as possible, see if it keeps up with us, and hopefully you guys learn something along the way and inspire you guys to go out there and just build whatever you want to build. And hopefully that stigma of you need money to have fun just gets out of your head, and you guys can just, you know, there's always a way. And if you guys want to check out our channel and see how we're doing it, then there you go.
Alright, well, it's time to get started.
What's going on, guys? I'm going to explain a couple things that you need to do. On this car, we did a manual swap, and we also converted it down to an OBD1 system instead of the OBD2 that the car came with. For the OBD1 swap, you got to do a couple things. One of the things you need to do is, typically on these motors, there's one coolant sensor that gives the reading to the ECU and the gauge, and you have one coolant port right here that would flow to the spider hose, is what they call it. So what you need to do is you need to go buy 2 regular coolant temp sensors, and you stick them in both spots. Next, you gotta use OBD1 knock sensors, front and back, and OBD1 crank positioning sensor, which is nice because BMW never changed the casting, so you just pop it in there and you're good to go. And you leave the old one plugged in just to plug the hole, but it doesn't need to be connected. Vano solenoid, you can keep it the same. Some people would say run an extension. You definitely don't need to. And last of all, you need the camshaft positioning sensor from an OBD1. Once you get all that down, basically everything else is the same. You can use the same coil packs. Everything is basically the same. You got to make a couple modifications on the valve cover if you're keeping the OBD2 one, where you just kind of cut out some spots for the plug wires to sit through, or the coil pack wires to sit. Besides that, you need the OBD1 intake manifold, which is sitting over here. And you don't necessarily need an OBD1 throttle body, but we went this way just to make it a little easier. They sell like adapter plates so you can use the OBD2 throttle body. So we changed the throttle cable and throttle body to OBD1. If you plan on keeping the OBD2 fuel rail, you're gonna need to make some small adapters so you can still use the OBD2 fuel rail, or you can convert down to OBD1. So that's basically all you need for the OBD1 conversion. You know what else? You know, you actually need a wire harness and an ECU. Red Label 413 is the easiest to use because there's no EWS system anti-theft, and it's just way easier. The ECU likes to also learn what the car is doing, so I wouldn't say you need a tune. I mean, you need a tune, but if you don't tune it, you can get away with it. And you need the wire harness for the OBD1. Next thing we did on this car was we did a full manual swap. And for the manual swap, it's pretty easy. You don't need much to do it. You need the transmission, obviously. You need a clutch flywheel pressure plate. You need a pilot bearing, because when the car is automatic, it doesn't come with a pilot bearing, so you need a pilot bearing. You need a throttle bearing, you need the clutch fork, you need a slave cylinder, you need to change the transmission cross brace and the transmission bushings. Next you would need a clutch pedal assembly. And on the clutch pedal assembly, the master cylinder is already here. It has a hose that you can route to your existing master cylinder reservoir for the brakes. It has a nipple on it, which you can just snip off and you run the hose to it. And as far as drive shaft goes, you only need the front half for a manual drive shaft. On an automatic, since the transmission is way larger, the drive shaft is shorter, because the drive shaft would actually start here. So when you do a manual trans, you need it longer. But you only need the front half, and then you just need the shifter carrier. But on this car, we're going to be doing a solid mounted chassis shifter, so we don't need the whole carrier, we just need the linkage. And that's about all you need to do a full OBD1 swap and manual swap. This is a get reg transmission, and then there's a ZF transmission. ZF started around 96 and up, or 97 and up, but this is a get reg. This is from the previous models. When you use a get reg trans, you need a get reg drive shaft. Whenever you use a ZF trans, you need a ZF drive shaft. They vary lengthwise, but if you're doing the full OBD1 swap, easiest car to pull it off. If you can keep everything the same year, it just makes it easier for you, because you know everything's going to be the same. And last thing you need for the manual swap, you need this hard line right here. This hard line runs to the master cylinder for the clutch that's inside on the pedal assembly, and then it goes down. The brackets never change, they never undo the brackets, so they're all the same. And you just need a soft line for the clutch. Besides that, that's it. Then it's just a lot of labor, and you probably need a Bentley manual or a wire harness diagram, because once you start unplugging shit underneath the intake manifold, you lose track of all the connectors. So either mark them before you unplug them, or have a Bentley manual or a wire and harness diagram in front of you. And one of the last things I wanted to show you guys before we get started putting the motor and transmission in is to install the clutch pedal. Nothing changes. You removed your old assembly and you put the new one in. All the bolts and mounting points are exactly the same. And for the clutch master cylinder, which is right here, there is already a hole. So you don't have to drill anything, it's all there. You just pop out the cover and you're good to go. And on the master reservoir side, this hose right here, if it could focus, cool, not gonna focus, got it. This is the nipple. Every car has the same nipple. All you have to do is just cut the end of it off. All you gotta do is cut it and put the hose on, and you have fluid going to the master cylinder. Alright guys, well we got the motor sitting in now. We still need to bolt up the rear trans brace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply pressure on the motor so the trans comes up and he can put the bolts on and we'll be good.
Alright guys, so now we have the engine sitting on the motor mounts in the front. The next step is to get the transmission bolted up to the chassis. And in order to do that, it's really simple. So originally, the auto trans, I don't know if you can see this, but it has 4 bolt holes. You have 2 on this side and 2 on this side. That's for the auto tranny. The manual tranny is going to use the bottom from the auto mount and this bolt over here. So it's using 2 right here and 2 right here. The great thing about the E36 chassis is everything is already pre-drilled. You have to do no work besides just bolting it up. But as you can see, the tranny is tilting down, so I need to put pressure up so I could get the tranny to line up with the chassis. There's 2 ways you can do it. One, you can put a jack under here and just jack it up yourself, Or what we're gonna do, we have Vlad in the front. He's gonna put some pressure on the front of the motor. That way the whole tranny can lift up just like that. And now I can get the holes in place and get ready to get them drilled in. And just like that, now your tranny is all linked up and you're good to go.
Hey, so now that we have the motor on the mounts and we have the transmission bolted up, next thing to do is going to be a drive shaft. This is the drive shaft you're going to use. You're going to use one off the manual transmission. Let me explain to you why. Because this is the one off the auto. The auto transmission ends right here, and a manual transmission ends right here. So you need that for the length. And just so you guys know, if you have a get rag transmission, you need a get rag drive shaft. If you have a ZF transmission, you need a ZF drive shaft. They are not interchangeable. Save yourself a lot of time and just get the right part the first time. So now that we have our correct size drive shaft, we're gonna put the front of the drive shaft onto the rear. So you do that by sliding it into the rear splines. Just move it around until it gets in just loosely, and you don't tighten it yet. Because what you're gonna want to do is line it up to the output shaft on the transmission side. All right, so once you've placed the drive shaft onto the output shaft, you're gonna want to tighten the center support bearing. It's gonna be two 13 millimeters. It's always good to hand tight first, and in that way you don't really have to hold the bar anymore. After that, you're gonna want to move on to the transmission right here, and make sure that these holes line up so you can get a bolt through. They're gonna be 18 millimeter bolts, the nut and the bolt. You come over here and you just wiggle it until you can get the right bolt through. Once you get it through, go ahead on the back of it, and you're gonna wanna place this. Just slide the bolt on. The nut on. All right, so now we're done with the bolts on the output shaft. Make sure the car is in neutral because you'll need to spin this each time to get a comfortable angle on each bolt and nut. All right, so now that the center support bearing is in place and these bolts are in place, there's a big nut right here, and basically you just want to hand tighten it until you can't anymore. Hold some of the drive shaft for some opposite force, and then just real quick you want to grab one of these. Just give it a little more pressure, just tight enough so it doesn't come loose. Just to recap, these two are 13s. These four for the transmission, they're also 13s. These are going to be 18s, bolt and nut.
All right, what's going on, everybody? We're on day 2 of the E36 build. Yesterday we finished up the drivetrain, so we have the motor, transmission, drive shaft all hooked up. We got the exhaust put in, but we couldn't really get the footage to work with us. Something happened to the audio, but we got the exhaust all hooked up. I would recommend that you guys have the headers on the engine before you install it. Make your life 10 times easier. Then from there, just attach the downpipe. Today we're going to focus on the engine bay. So as you can see, the engine is, right there sitting pretty. We got to put the power steering on, the AC, radiator, rad support, intake manifold isn't actually on, it's just on the studs. We're going to show you guys how to adapt the OBD2 fuel rail to the OBD1. We're going to get the wiring harness in, and if everything goes good, hopefully we can start her today. We're not going to be able to drive her just because the brakes need to be bled, plus as you can see there's no wheels, but the goal is to start her today and we'll go from there.
Yo, what's up, you guys? Let me show you something really funny. My car came with no ignition, so we got the little mastermind over here, and he's gonna take ignition from another car, from his for his M3, his other project, and we're gonna hook it up to the car. We're gonna use that, and we're gonna try to fire it up right now. So stay tuned for that.
Yo. Oh damn, I don't even know where to look for the camera. I was looking at the screen, it's weird.
It's hard at first.
Alright guys, well, Kim's hooking up the booster. We have our ghetto ignition hooked up. And maybe we'll get this thing to start right now. We'll see. We'll see. Dude, I wonder if the car's in gear. I don't even know, like... Oh no, you know what? It isn't.
Okay, that's good.
Let's see. Play with the booster a little bit.
It's on.
Ready?
Yeah. Hey, something burning. Hold on.
What?
Fire started or something?
Oh, was it smoking?
Yeah.
Oh, I held I held the starter a little too long.
Alright, here, I thought it was coming. Wait, it came from here. You sure it's not one of these?
I want to say it's not one of
I'll
those.
give it one more shot and I'll tell you exactly where smoke's coming from. Or I'll crank it.
Yeah, you go crank it.
Alright.
I don't think this thing has enough battery. Oh, you know what? I also forgot to pop that little fucker on. Give me 1 second.
Alright, we'll take two in a second.
Yeah, I forgot to pop this bolt on. This is the power that goes to the everything.
Oh. Do you think that was the reason?
It could have been one of them. Yeah. You know, you always gotta forget one thing.
Yeah, that's it's like the rite of passage.
Yeah.
If you didn't forget one thing, your car's just gonna blow up the truck.
Oh, and I took the keys out, bro. Why'd I take the... I don't even know which one of these keys it is. BMW problems. You just have too many keys. Alright, let's see.
Alright, I'm going on.
Yeah. Is it on?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, it's making a sound.
Go crank really quick then. Let me see.
It sounds like a sizzling sound almost. Alright, ready?
Do it and then let go.
Clutch in or anything?
No.
Okay. Alright, ready?
Yeah. Go again.
Again?
Yeah. Alright, let it go.
Alright.
Yeah, let's grab the other booster.
That's what it is?
Oh.
Alright.
Alright, go for it. We got another booster. I'll tell you to turn it off if we need to turn it off.
I'm gonna let it go then.
Yeah.
More?
Go again. Don't worry.
Wait, did you do that?
Huh? The throttle? Yeah, I did throttle.
Great.
Alright, turn it up. Oh my god, bro. Oh my god. Damn, it's a little cloudy out here.
Hey bro, did you put sync foam in here?
Yeah, bro, totally. Yeah, gang.
Alright, so the car starts, but it makes every human noise possible, or non-human or whatever, but here's how we're gonna fix it. Vlad?
Basically, right after the mass airflow sensor, there was one hose that was unplugged, so that's blocked off now. We had another hole underneath where the idle control valve that is now plugged with an automotive pick that's orange. A little bit this way, Kim. You can see it in there. Yeah, that orange one. And we're not gonna fix this now, but we do also have this giant exhaust leak from where the EGR used to be. But that'll be blocked off another time. For now, we're gonna try to start it and see if it at least holds idle normally and doesn't die out.
Alright.
Oh, and then we left the fucking Vanos unplugged too.
Alright.
But we'll figure that out. Alright.
Cool. Hold, and I'll start.
Yeah, do that.
Alright, let me know when you're ready.
I mean, yeah. Oh, look at that. Look at that holding idle.
That's we have idle, boys.
Yeah, go for it. We've been lying to you guys as a screamer pipe.
Okay, so we did some minor little adjustments, and we're gonna start it one more time. Should be much smoother this time around.
Bro, I'm gonna fucking break this shit.
There you go. There you go. Purring smoothly this time. Last thing we need to do is just that EGR, but everything else is looking good. Basically, we're just gonna put the front end back on right now, assemble everything, and then we're gonna bleed the pedals, connect the pedals, and yeah, after that, maybe we'll have a running car, and I'm excited. Alright guys, so that about wraps up the work for today. This is the first episode, and we're ending with the car running, which is really good. Vlog's gonna talk to you about what we did and what we're gonna do next.
So we got the car running. There's obviously a couple things that we need to work out. Vacuum leak, some small stuff. But for the most part, everything is good. The car is having no issues, really. We ended up putting the front end back on. So we now have the radiator on there. We have all the coolant hoses and everything's basically hooked up. Like I said, it's just a lot of small details to just like perfect. And next video, what are we doing next video, Ellis?
Alright, so next video, we actually got some super cheap coils off of eBay. So you guys can see how they feel, how they compare to other coils, and just overall how to install them. And we're going to give you guys a full review on that. So make sure you stay tuned, and we're going to just keep going on from there with Hydro E-brakes and E36 control arms.
Cheap angle kit.
Angle kits, exactly, everything. So make sure you guys stay tuned, like and subscribe. Comment if you guys have any questions, or if you have any recommendations on what we can do to improve the video to make it more entertaining for you guys. Or if there's anything you want to see us install, or if you have just any general questions, feel free to comment. We'll try to answer everybody, and just stick around and join us on this journey.
I'd also like to add the last thing. I'd like to really say thank you to all of our sponsors, which is our wallets, because no one's sponsoring us.
Sounds about right.